Hello, it's Carmen with Castanet News, and I'm down at the Kelowna RCMP detachment for my monthly one-on-one with Superintendent Nick Romanchuk. First of all, we discussed the recent Statistics Canada report that says crime in Kelowna is the second worst in Canada.
Our crime rate is increasing in Kelowna right now. We're the fastest growing community in the country, as far as I understand. We have a high unemployment rate, and there are a lot of issues that contribute to crime, and we're seeing an increase right now. We're very proactive in terms of certain areas of our work. And so some of that will show an increase in some areas, which can lead to an increase in the crime rate. In terms of the crime severity index, population has a lot to do with how that number is calculated. And we have one of the lowest populations for crime within the census metropolitan areas. And so our lower population has a bigger impact when compared to the same number of offenses or in a bigger area with a much larger population. But not to make excuses or anything, there is a lot going on in this community for sure, and we're working very hard to address it. You know, one of the things we're actually quite proud of, and we think that it makes a difference, is the level of drug enforcement that we've conducted here. We have one of the highest rates, if not the highest rate in the country in terms of drug enforcement. But that also has an impact on the crime severity index because drug offenses tend to be rated higher within that index than, say, some others. So if I was to flip a switch and say no more drug enforcement, we would have a low drug enforcement rate, but we would also have a lower crime severity index.
While statistics show crime has spiked 10% over 2014 in the central Okanagan, Romanchuk says there's no need for major concern.
There's certainly an increase, right? But 10%, it's all relative. 10% in a much larger area would be a bigger concern than 10% here. But yeah, we don't like to see the crime rate rising for sure. We have a whole bunch of very dedicated people who work extremely hard every day to try and make sure that doesn't happen. But right now we're struggling in a lot of ways in terms of just the environmental and societal factors that we're dealing with that do have those impacts on crime. It still concerns me that we've increased, but I wasn't all that concerned. I mean, there are reasons why it's happening. Some of it is strictly the level of enforcement that we're doing out there, because we know that some of the work we do will drive those numbers up. I'm not certain that people really are freaking out about the numbers. If you go downtown, people are wandering around freely. They seem to be enjoying themselves. There's no shortage of people downtown at this time of day or at 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And I think if it was truly an unsafe community, people wouldn't be there. There are many, many, many more communities in BC, and some very close to us, that have much higher crime rates than we do here. But because they only calculate and distribute these numbers based on the CMAs, we're one of the 32, so we tend to float up.
We also discussed pot dispensaries and whether police in Kelowna are planning on shutting them down.
Well, I mean, ultimately, there's nothing in law that allows for those type of dispensaries or compassion clubs or those type of entities to operate. When we have the time and the resources, we can certainly look at investigating those, but we have to consider that amongst everything else that we have to do and the resources that we have available to us, and whether it's really the thing to do or not. And right now, I think with some other issues that we have in the community, I think our resources are probably better directed to those areas.
For Castanet News, I'm Carmen Weld at the Kelowna RCMP detachment.